Hello, College Biology. This is Evolution and Speciation Part 2. When we last left off, we had discussed speciation and we had defined species. And so then we were about to talk about some of the core components of speciation. The core, heart of speciation is reproductive isolation. Reproductive isolation. This is preventing groups from being able to reproduce from each other. That is a core component. And there's there's several types of speciation, but we're going to go over two major components. First is allopatric speciation. Oh, that doesn't mean anything. Let's try this one. Yes, allopatric speciation, which is the most common scenario that leads to speciation. Allopatric, meaning other homeland, is when a population is divided by some kind of geographical barrier, and those two separated populations then evolve to become different species. So in this example illustrated, we've got these fish population, but then the water level drops, and now the fishes are separated from each other. So there's these two different populations. Well, mutations begin to occur in one or both of those populations, and they build up over time, so that when those organisms are reintroduced to each other, they no longer either engage in reproductive behavior, or sometimes they can't even engage in reproductive behavior. Those mutations have made them too different. So this is the general mechanism for speciation, allopatric speciation. Now there's a second type of speciation, which is less common, called, in fact it's pretty rare, called sympatric speciation. And this is when a population achieves reproductive isolation even though they share a habitat. So you'll end up having two species in the same place. And there are a couple of different things that can lead to this. One of them is new ecological interactions. Now this is a real-life example of these flies that were brought over on hawthorns from Europe. And they would meet on the hawthorn fruit and mate. But when they started being planted with apples as well as hawthorns in the same orchard, some of the flies could smell the apples and preferred the apples, although some of them either could not smell the apples or did not prefer the apples. And so then the population started splitting and having different ecological interactions, and this changed their reproductive behavior. And so the population became flies that will mate on hawthorns and flies that will mate on apples, and that's how they achieved reproductive isolation. Other mechanisms for sympatric speciation can include mutations or chromosomal abnormalities, as well as new ecological interactions. But the things that they all have to have in common is that they must alter reproductive behavior. We can have chromosomal abnormalities and mutations and new ecological interactions that don't alter reproductive behavior. In fact, that happens all the time. So they don't lead to sympatric speciation. But if those things occur and they do alter reproductive behavior, well, then you can get reproductive isolation within a habitat. And that is this. So let's go to our notes. We talked about speciation and the definition of species in our last video, but here we go. Our speciation requires reproductive isolation. There must be conditions which prevent populations from reproducing. And allopatric speciation is the most common and begins when a population becomes separated by a geographical barrier, preventing members from meeting to reproduce. Separate mutations then occur over time, creating behavioral or structural adaptations that prevent members from mating when they are reunited. Sympatric speciation is very rare and occurs when mutations, chromosomal abnormalities, and new ecological interactions alter reproductive behavior. I hope this helps. Struggle well.